Hi, we would like to present Innovation Persistent on Ecuadorian SMEs Growth. It's a work consolidated by Professor Luis Enriquez Ibañez Taipe. Our presentation agenda includes introduction, literature review, research model, methodology, empirical analysis, descriptive and multivariate, conclusions. First, introduction. The small and medium-sized enterprises are very important for business network here in Ecuador because they contribute to the gross domestic product and labor force. We would like to have as objective in this research to determine the impact of innovation persistent on growth of Ecuadorian SMEs through sales and employment growth variables. This will explain this variable in certain types of companies in this kind of developing countries as Ecuador. The study evaluates a sample of 5,136 companies during the period 2009-2014, and it uses quantile regression model as estimated methodology for panel data. 2. Literature review. According to literature, we have the following definition of innovation persistence. It's a combination of learning and feedback effects which generates the dynamic economies of scale, as Jarowski author says. Also, we have a second definition. This variable describes the influence of previous innovation activities and the success of current and future innovation. We are going to use two study approaches. Dependence on background, which shows the influence of past innovation in the introduction of present innovation. And also analysis of virtuous circles of accumulations, which employs longer periods of time to observe the actual persistence. In this case, we will have 2 years per each period. We are going to have 5 different hypotheses. First one involving innovation and research and development intensity as it is the most used variable for growth in the literature. We have, for example, H1 as innovation persistence has a positive relationship on business growth. According to size, it measures also business growth, and it's related to market competitiveness. So we have the following H2. Size has a positive relationship on business growth. We are also considering H variable. As H3, we have H has a negative impact on Ecuadorian SMEs growth. Regarding high technology, it's a very used key tool for business development too. We have H4, the characteristic of working in high-tech sectors has a negative relationship on Ecuadorian SMEs growth. Finally, we have exports. Normally, companies engaged in export activities are more likely to perform in a more competitive and effective style. So H5 is the export characteristics of companies has a positive relationship on business growth. So we have divided the research model in related directly to innovation and variables related to general company characteristics as control variables. We have here the schema of this research model. Innovation persistent as background dependence and accumulation virtuous circles that are our 2 main approaches, dependent variables, independent variables, and we have innovation characteristics and company characteristics. Continuing with methodology, we have here how we filter the number of sample companies. We have to eliminate from our 6,562 companies of our database micro companies, large companies, companies with 0 employees, companies with 0 sales, and some avoidance of collinear inconsistencies of some companies. So we may remain with 5,136 companies for our study. We use as estimation method quantile regression for panel data, and we use this in order to avoid all kind of unobserved inconsistencies and covariances inconsistencies. We have here some results of empirical analysis. First, the first figure 2 shows the sales growth distribution in which sample asymmetry is evident due to the existence of outliers in the right queue. In contrast, figure 3 shows the distribution of employee growth. It has a negative value in the first left queue. This means that there are companies that are considerably high negative growth. As a result, growth rates measured through sales and the number of employees is not random. So, we have the statistic analysis. The table presents average values for each variable. Sales in US dollars, $1.2 million, with 10.71% growth. Number of employees average 32, with 2.97% growth. The average age is 15 years. The high-tech companies are 0.63%, and the exporting companies represents 5.4%. On the other hand, the average innovation intensity stands at 0.68%, and the companies that use innovation as a strategy reach 10.94%. There are no collinearity problems. We have here the second table of innovation persistence on sales growth. The result shows that the variable innovation shows a negative persistence in quants 0.5 and 0.745 for sales growth, while the employment growth, this ratio persists for 0.1, 0.50, and 0.25 due to the economic and market conditions of the Ecuadorian company. So, for innovation, we can discover that are several values, which means that our innovation in Ecuador faces 3 main obstacles: low freeing up time within administration, complex legal regulations, and lack of training personnel. We also use MCOs for fixed effects. This strategy corrects the presence of variable of over-identification. So we correct this kind of errors. We have here the summary of the hypothesis. For H1, which involves innovation persistence, has a positive relationship on business growth, we have a partially rejected hypothesis because it's not positive for all the quantiles. H2, which was size has a positive relationship on business growth, is completely rejected as saw before. H3, it has a negative impact on Ecuadorian CMS growth, is accepted, as we saw in the tables. H4, the characteristics of working in high-tech sectors has a negative relationship on Ecuadorian CMS growth is also accepted. It's negative. Finally, for exports, H5, the export characteristics of companies has a positive relationship of business growth is also partially accepted. It's not same for all the quantiles. Conclusions. First, innovation in Ecuador faces three main obstacles as we saw. Low freeing up time within administration, complex legal regulations, and lack of trained personnel. Second, control variable shows that small businesses grow faster than large ones because companies presents responsibility of novelty. High-tech sectors demonstrate a competitive advantage. They face a lack of technology in training. They have also implementation costs that are very high, and this also risks the whole process. In contrast, exporting companies generates effective and efficient production to compete in international markets. Finally, the economic environment affects the development and maintenance of innovative activities. We have some key takeaways. As we discover, estimation strategies that we use in the research are used to evaluate the persistence of innovations prove to be very effective. The application of this study can be applied to countries with a transition economy, such as Ecuador. Also, the research contributes to establish public and business policies focused on the use of innovation as growth strategy. We had had some limitations for this study, which includes that we only use a small and medium size. We can extend this universe. Another thing is that we only use two approaches. Research innovation variables such as research and development intensity and innovation. We propose future lines that can expand the scope of the study to the entire business sector and also use other variables such as trademarks and patents, process innovations, product innovation, and intangible access. We foster to develop a cooperation cluster including government entities, business sectors, and academic institutions. This cluster increases the probabilities of updating local innovation management, and it can foster also technological advances. Thank you very much.